All right. So most of y'all should know at this point, whenever you go to log in, the login is just admin, ADMIN, username, and password. So I'll go through on the touchpad here, log in, and then let's say I want to go track the data. Let's say I want to go look at a student login. I'll go to the settings tab on the very bottom of the touchpad. It'll be on the left side, just a little cog icon. And then I'll go to the area that says Start TenStar Management Tool. It's just a little bar, says Start TenStar Management Tool. I'll tap that. Now, from this point, I want to grab my keyboard. Should be keyboard right here. It'll be the exact same login. Admin, admin. It'll start you on this first screen. We'll just hit OK for now. Then it'll bring us to the dashboard. When you first open the dashboard, you'll see something very similar to this. Don't worry about it. This is just going over like stuff that they did when they were testing these initially. This is nothing that you'll need to care about in any way. But then we'll move into like exercise results. This is where, so let's say a student finishes an exercise. A lot of you will know it. If it has that TSS icon, it'll give them a score. This is where you could then take that, download it as a PDF file, or print it off as a physical sheet to then hand back to your student and say, hey, why did you get a 30 on this? Why did you get a 50 on this, et cetera, et cetera. If they do an exercise multiple times, right here next to where it says exercise report, where I have my mouse hovering, it would show progress report. And it would show, okay, the first time they did the exercise on March 6th, they got a 30. Then they did the exercise again on March 7th, they got an 80. It'll show that progress on how they progress from each exercise, but the exercise report will show the more in-depth metrics on what's actually being measured during the exercise, if that makes sense. No, there's not a limit. You can, as the administrator, program how, like what they can and cannot access, but there's not a limit to how many times they can do any specific exercise. Now the main, so that's up to your discretion. So if you have them do an exercise and they get, let's say they get a 70, but you want them closer to an 80, 90 range, you can then go through and lock them to that exercise. That's the only exercise they can see, do, whatever. As long as you have it set up here, and you can do it, I'll show you here in just a second, from a group and a user basis. So you can have an entire group set up that way, or just individual users set up that way. Now, I can go through filters, so I can choose different groups. If I want to see exercise results from, like, here it says the demo class. If I want to choose specific users, machines, exercises, you can really make sure so that if you have Tom in your class and you want to see Tom's results on one specific exercise on the manual truck, it'll only show the exercise results for that specific exercise for that specific user. Does that make sense? Now, the big thing for everybody is going to be setting up groups and users. So if I'm in the groups, I'll go to add group right here. And for now, I'll just set CDL and I'll hit add. Boom. Now I have a user group. Now anybody that goes into that group will be set up as a student, and every exercise that they do will be sequentially locked. So they have to do it in order of what it shows here. Now I'll go to users, and just as an example, I'll add myself just so I can show y'all. So I'll do Alex, Nick. Now the big thing that you want to pay attention to first, the username will always be the first 3 letters of their first name and the first 3 letters of their last name. You can change that, but it will automatically always be set as that. Now, you do not need to set their password here. the first time that they go to log in, no matter what, across the board, it will ask them to set their own password. So as soon as you go through and set this up, I can just say, okay, add. Now I'm there. Let's say I want to go to a group. I can edit group, that one, go to CDL. Now I can access what I can and cannot see. So if I go to automatic truck, if I were to log in under my user right now, I wouldn't even see automatic truck. And I'll go through and do that here in a bit just so y'all see what it's going to look like. But then let's say I go to manual, it's already sequentially locked, so I don't need to mess with that. But let's say I hit lock all, and I only want myself to have access to the first 6 or 7 exercises, just enough to get me started. Go ahead and get me going through some of the different practices. Then you would go ahead and start clicking on some of these icons right here, just so you can do the individual exercises. So I would click the green lock for the first exercise, the yellow lock for all of these sequential ones. And then if I want to just be locked out of an exercise, I would just hit red. Same thing if you want to lock everything and then only have one exercise open. So let's just say the obstacle course as an example. I would click the green lock right here. And now if I log in under this, all I see is the manual truck obstacle course exercise. It's as simple as that. So real quick, I'll actually go through and show y'all what that looks like. I'll minimize this. So I'll tap on the touchpad, first 3 letters of my first name, first 3 letters of my last name, Ale Nick. Then it has me set a password. So I can set it up as whatever I want right here. I'll just do something simple. It has to be, I think, 6 or 7 characters. Just let them know that. It will say that if they only try to put like 4 or 5, it has to be 6 characters. So I'll just do Alex and I1, Alex, I1. So save. So now all I see is the manual truck. And if I go to the manual truck, all I can do is the obstacle course. I can do it as many times as I want. I'll get scores. I can go back through or you can go back through and watch it as the teacher after they've done it with the record and replay. But I can't do anything else other than this. That's what the students are going to see. So now if I go back to the management tool, I can then go back through and manage that again. But right now I'm managing it on a group. So if I had 10 different users just in this one group, it would show like that for all of them. I can then go through and let's say I have myself and 4 other people in this group. I could then say, okay, well, Alex, you're going to stick to the obstacle course. Person number 2, you're going to stick to learning how not to jackknife a truck or how not to hydroplane or all of these different exercises that they need to go through and make sure that they understand when learning how to drive this. Or even if they're struggling with something like the gear positions on the gear shifter, because they may struggle with it. They may look at it and say, okay, well, where's 2 again? Where's 3? How do I know where I'm looking at? You can still lock them to that and say, we're going to go over this until I feel comfortable that you can move on to the next one. Any questions looking at this right now? Again, so you'll start here whenever you log in. Then you'll go to your settings. So it won't show here because I'm still logged in under my account, but there would be a little bar at the bottom of the screen that just says Start TenStar Management Tool. I'll pull it back up here in a second. That way you can see it. But any other questions just looking at this, looking at the management side, setting up logins, users, anything like that? The one thing that I would tell you to pay attention to, I'll add another one. We'll just say, we'll pretend that The Rock is in this class. Pay attention to what group you are adding a login to, because you may accidentally end up putting a student in the administrator group that they should not be in. So please make sure. So like right now, this is set up for CDL. It'll go ahead, as soon as I go to add a new person, it'll automatically put them in the CDL group. If you have a second or third group of users that you want to have, just make sure that you're checking the group, make sure that they're going in the right group. It's as simple as that. So let's hit cancel for now. If you have a large enough group of students that you don't want to have to go through and enter each one individually, we do have a system where you can download an Excel template, put it on a flash drive, take it to an individual device, put all of your users just on one big Excel document and mass upload them here. That way you don't have to worry about, okay, I got to add John, Tom, Taylor, all these different people. You can just put it all in at once. Then you have your reports. This is going to be something of a more in-depth version of what we were looking at with the exercise results. This is showing how many exercises have been done, how many have been completed, not completed, completed just generally, crashed, aborted, completed with errors. It'll show you all these things, and then it'll show you on an exercise by exercise basis. So like right now, the only exercise that has been done on this machine specifically is the free driving on the road. But if a student has done every exercise, you'll see all the exercises show up on one big list, and then you can go through and export that with this button right here, and then print it or save it as an Excel. You can go through, filter it by group, user, machine, however you want to do it. If you want to see their data, their report for a specific amount of time. So if I want to look at it from Monday of this week to Friday of this week, it would show that and how many times they've done an exercise, completed it, crashed, all of those different things just in the report tool right here. Then statistics, which is going to be almost the exact same setup. It just looks a little different. So I can go through, choose the group. If you have a group with no data, they're not going to show up in statistics. They have to start getting through the exercises, going through a lot of this and getting hours on it for you to see the statistics here. But so I'll just choose the administrator group. There's only one user. We'll go to manual. And then depending on how many exercises that have been done, it'll show you how much time has been put into the simulator, average time per exercise. You can choose to only show the most recent attempts. You can only show completed results. And the same thing as before, you can have it set to where you only show a specific period of time. So if you've had a student on it for months at a time, and you only want to show a week of their, like the last week of their progress, you can show that right here. And you can go through and look at that and see, okay, this is how many hours you've put in this week. Let's go look at the book for a little while. Let's get a bit more hands-on with like actually learning what this part is doing. And then we can get back onto the simulator. That way you can keep a steady flow of education and keep them learning here and what you would normally do. If that makes sense. Any questions about the reporting or the statistics? So it's literally, so if I go to import here, the icon that says download template, you would just download that and then you can stick a flash drive in. There's USB ports all over the bottom of the machine. Exactly. Yeah, you could take the USB headphones out, pop your flash drive in. Yeah, absolutely. You could just pop it in there and then re-upload it, and then all of them are already set up. So very simple to get a hold of. If you have any questions, again, you can reach out. I'd be more than happy to help. Any other questions just looking at it? Okay. So at this point, if possible, I would like everyone to find a simulator, go to it, and navigate to the management tool. Now, I'm going to log in and I'm going to go through what some of the different buttons do. Like a lot of y'all asked, how do we adjust the mirrors? Specific things. So I'm going to hop in the seat, log in. I'll go through. You'll see on your touchpad whenever you're going through, there's going to be a little globe icon. That globe icon, if you tap it, there will be an American flag right next to it. Always tap that flag. It'll pop up in our measurements, feet, inches, miles per hour, our road signs, so our stop signs, our speed limit signs, everything. That way they don't get confused when they see a yellow circle that says 70 on it when it's probably a 40 mile per hour zone. It's just kilometers per hour versus miles per hour. So I'll hit the American flag. Then I'll go into exercises. So for the purposes of what I'm going to show here, I'm just going to go to the free driving. But before I do that, I am going to just kind of give a full breakdown of the exercises and just kind of give you all an idea of where it starts and then where it progresses to and where they should be by the end. So the first exercise is just learning the gear patterns. So going 1, 2, 3, 4, I think most of y'all said you're just going to be doing 10 speeds. So learning how to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then flipping up to 6 through 10. Then it has them actually physically practice that. And the more that they do this, the more it takes away those tools, those indicators that show, okay, now I'm in first, now I'm in second, third. And it'll make it harder for them. That way they can keep getting that muscle memory as they go. Then you'll go into switching while driving. This way it'll show, okay, I need to bite down on my clutch at this specific moment. That way I can keep it right there. And then go into neutral, press down again. It's going to have them double clutch. They're going to need to get used to the pattern of what it feels like to double clutch. At least in here. Y'all have a truck that you're not going to have them double clutch on. That's a whole different thing. But in here, they got to learn how to double clutch. Then practice shifting while driving. Anytime you see that TSS icon, most of y'all know this. I kind of went over it with you when I set up your simulators originally. That means that exercise will give them a score. That's one of those scores will then pop up in the management tool, which y'all know how to access now. Then you'll go to positioning the truck in specific squares. You'll back it in, you'll pull forward, whatever works best. But they're going to go through and do this in 10 different areas just so they know how to properly park the truck. This is scored and it is recorded. So if I were to start this exercise, if I see that TRR icon, it stands for TenStar Record and Replay. It'll go through, record the exercise from the moment it begins, and then you as the teacher can essentially walk away while they're doing it and then go back and rewatch it once they finish. And let's say they tell you, oh, I did great. You don't need to worry about it. I did perfectly fine. You can call them on it and say, well, actually, you crashed here, 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 and here. You hit this cone, you hit that cone. You can keep them accountable for the mistakes that they make going through it. And it would pop up for the same with car and driver's ed and whatnot. Correct. The recordings have to be checked here. They cannot be checked from an external device. The question was asked if the management tool can be pulled up from different devices. Yes, it can. So if I go to system settings, there's a URL at the very bottom of the page. It says address for TenStar management tool. As long as your simulator and the device that you want to pull up the management tool on is on the same network, you should be able to pull it up. Especially with these ones here, because they're all connected to a central hub, you shouldn't need to worry about that. Now, some of the satellite schools, some of the different high schools, you may still need to get on here and do it. It's not that big of a deal, but you should, I would just try going to, it'll say address for TenStar management tool, getting on that whenever you get back to your schools, either today or tomorrow, just test it out. Now, getting back to the exercises, it'll teach you how to couple and uncouple your trailer, turning and positioning, the obstacle course that I mentioned earlier. It'll go through a lot of different exercises of just what it's like to be on the road, how to properly turn, the feeling of turning. turning when reversing, all of these different things. And then it throws weather conditions at them. So now they can learn, okay, what's it like to drive on an icy road? What's it like to feel that wind resistance? I've told a lot of you recently, we're going to be adding an update in the near future. I want to say probably within the next year or so, where you can adjust the weight and where the mass is placed in the trailer of the truck. So if I get out of the seat right here, and this is my trailer, I can set it in the front, middle, or back. I can adjust the weight. I can adjust the wind resistance going back on the trailer. Eventually, we'll be able to do all of those things on these exercises where you're then playing with the weather as well. So you're able to really put them in environments that you just can't in real life because it's way too dangerous. So with that in mind, a lot of these are going to be recorded with the record replay tool. Some of the later ones are going to be scored as well. So you see TSS. The big thing is going to be once they go through all of these exercises, you get all their scores, you get them prepared. Then, and I've talked about this with some of you, not all of you, you can then put them on the 6-point skill portion of the CDL test. So they can practice it here as many times as necessary before they physically go take the test. Now, as of right now, it is just the driving portion. In the future, we will be adding the pre-trip inspection portion of the test. That way they can do every single aspect here before they go take the test. Some of y'all asked the question of, okay, I'm a little too close to my dash right now, right? Some of you would say. So there's a button towards the top of the touchpad. It'll essentially be like a light coming down on a head. If some of y'all want to kind of come on this side, just make sure you're not blocking the screen right here. There's a button right here. I'll tap that. Now, it essentially just turns the head tracking off. So it won't track how I move in the seat, but now I can physically see everything. What I can do as well, so if I want to adjust the mirrors, tap this button right here. Now it'll go ahead and highlight my first mirror on the left. Using the circle right here, I can go through and adjust it. It would be the exact same for car. Tap that button again. Now I can adjust that mirror. Tap it again on the right. And it cycles through every mirror that you're going to use for the truck. Then if you're in park, I can then essentially get out of the truck. And then this is how you would go through. It'll teach them how to properly do this. That's why we have 2 exercises dedicated to coupling and uncoupling a trailer from the main truck. But this is where I would go through if I wanted to attach or detach a trailer. This is where you would go to do that, essentially. I don't have a trailer attached right now, so it won't let me do a lot of the specific things, but it'll have you pull the plugs. It'll have you set the foot down for the trailer. It'll have you do all of those different steps before you just drive off, because otherwise you're just going to be dragging a trailer. I can get back in. Windshield wipers, if I want to specifically be locked to one specific area, or if I want to change my view, kind of like how it is right here. There's specific buttons. It's like there's an eye with an arrow above it. If I want to look right, if I want to look left. But if I turn this back on, I can still go through, adjust the seats if I need to. If you want to adjust where the audio is coming out of, there is a specific button, give sound. It's right next to the head tracking button. So if you have an idea of where that is, you'll know where to access the sound. Then you can go through, adjust different dials. For the most part, all of your simulators should already be set up with headphones. So the students can go through and wear those. If they have Bluetooth headphones, they can use the Bluetooth headphones. Or if you would like the audio coming out of the screens, you can set it to that. you'll see where it says 43 and then a bunch of extra letters and numbers off to the side here. If I were to tap one of those, now the audio is going to start coming out of some of these screens. So give it a second. It'll only come out of one at a time. It'll only come out of one of the screens at a time. So yeah, now it's coming out of this one. I've set like 70, 60 audio. So now all of the audio will come out of this screen specifically, all of your truck noises, everything. But again, we have the headphones set up on all of your simulators so that they can go through and use it. If you need to have disinfectant nearby, that way kids aren't like, ooh, if you have germaphobes, whatever, you can do that. Again, if they have Bluetooth headphones, they do have the option to put them into pair mode and then pair them directly to the simulator so that they can then use them sitting in the seat. I understand from an education standpoint, if you don't want kids connecting their devices to this, regardless, the option is there. Any questions looking at this right now? All right. Now, I would encourage, since you're here, if you would like to then go hop on a simulator again and log on, do an exercise where you do go through and adjust the mirrors, just so you have an idea yourselves. That way you can ask questions while I'm here. If not, if you haven't eaten anything yet, there's Jersey Mike's in the back. Outside of that,